Ready?
Hello and welcome to Rhythm and Pixels, video game music podcast. This is episode 36-6. It's the month of May, 2023. The birds are singing. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I'm Pernell.
And every week we listen to great birds singing outside.
Do we?
I do.
Well, you do. You got a nice tree out back.
Choking on a peanut. Every week we listen to great video game music. This is a video game music podcast. We pick a topic, we pick some tracks, and we listen to them. And so we had a new Zelda game come out, right? But it's like a Breath of the Wild Part 2.
Yeah, and I don't know why I bought it. I think it was just I wanted to feel the hype flow.
You wanted to feel alive.
I wanted to feel alive. And also there was like this weird like cryptic promise in like one of the interviews where like dungeons are back. And I was like, I missed dungeons. I want those to be back.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try this out. And then I went and bought it at midnight on a midnight launch. I went from not caring about it to buying the Zelda specific Switch and the Zelda midnight launch copy, not the collector's edition though. And I started playing it too, and it's more Breath of the Wild. But one thing I do like,
people like Breath of the Wild though, right?
Yeah, they do, and it's not even a bad game.
Our guest last week,
Not Musty.
He told us right away what he felt about this, and we had to bleep it out.
The bleep. But the thing about it is that there are a few changes here. I think in my head, at least in my headspace. One being, I've had a number of years to process Breath of the Wild, so as far as I'm concerned, this isn't Zelda, and I'm not coming into this expecting Zelda goods.
Right.
Breath of the Wild was like, where's my Zelda? This game is like, I know it's not here. Nintendo has thrown that concept in the trash.
Right.
So, and I'm okay with it. That's their business. So then the question becomes, is this a fun game in its own right? And the big mechanic that I'm enjoying, at least for now, we'll see if I burn out on it in time, because it's a whole open world thing, is the fact that they have this mechanic now where you can kind of use your kinetic abilities, which were in the first game, to lift things up and then connect them together and kind of build structures.
So you got Fortnite going on.
You really do.
Yeah,
like
Fortnite.
Like I think it's
Zelda Fortnite.
Zelda. Well, it actually is there. Zelda Skyrim Fortnite. But very early in the game, you come across when you first get the ability, but you leave the place where you get it. You come across like a bunch of stuff on the ground and like a body of water, and your brain just immediately goes, I think I can build a boat out of this stuff. So then you collect everything, boom, you build the boat. Another time you're like, I could build a wind-propelled minecart. And then you do, and it works. And you're like, this has potential.
Right.
This could be fun. But the scary thing, which why I'm not sure how it's going to play out long-term, is the way those things work long-term to make it feel engaging as a puzzle is that you're in a situation that requires you to use that to solve the puzzle. But in a space that's open world, which is what this is, they are by design meant to allow you numerous ways to circumvent things.
Yeah. So
which means it's not structured like a good puzzle should be.
Yeah.
So you might find yourself being like, I have
sense.
all this power and I need none of it. I could just do anything to get there.
I have all this power to go north across this way to do something, right? Maybe I can solve this puzzle to do it, or I can just like turn left and go in that direction for a while. Nope, got around it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Puzzles generally require some level of tightness to make a structure that forces a player, even if they have options, it still has to force them to do some things to get to a thing and not just go, it's open. I have any way of which I want to make this happen.
You know what's funny to me that became a naughty word between people who play video games is linear gameplay. How is that such a bad thing?
It's not, and I'm surprised too. Like early on, I got why, and that's because open world was new. It exposed a window to infinite air quotes possibilities. So you're like, I can chart my own course, choose my own destiny, do my own thing. And then everyone started doing it.
Everyone wants a sandbox.
Mostly beaten down by Ubisoft, but eventually everything became open world. And once everything became open world, it lost what made it special. Yeah. Every game became follow the dot to your destination. Not get there, it's just the dot tells you where to go. So just do that. It's like when people use GPSs to get everywhere. You hear me rant about this in the car all the time. It's like, turn the GPS off. You don't even know where you're going. You're just following the dot.
You know what? I've turned into that guy.
I know.
I just leave it on. And I'm like, now I know when I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
Or to follow traffic.
Oh, yeah. The traffic is good. I don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
It has its perks. It's just, I've met people who will be in a place for who knows how long, and despite being in that place for so long, they still don't know how to get places that they've been to multiple times because the GPS has always done the work. They turn it off.
If we're going to the beach for the day, Delaware beaches, I don't ever turn it on. I just know where to point my car. And Delaware's tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one coast. And you just gotta go for it.
And there's only like 2 or 3 primary roads that you can take.
Exactly, yes. I've never used it, even though I'm like, because even if there's traffic, there's no way around it. What am I going to do, drive in the ocean?
Yeah, see, so think about that, right?
Yeah.
That imagine if Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom was just the roads to Delaware beaches.
Yeah.
And you had multiple ways to traverse those roads.
Right.
But the roads were finite. You had to take one of those, which means you still had to work out a solution with limited space. But if you could just take your car and drive anywhere, to just drive south.
So where's the first dungeon? Is it Milton or is it Milford?
Oh, God, no. The first dungeon is Middletown.
Is it Middletown?
The first dungeon is Middletown.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's Smyrna.
Oh, the Smyrna monster is terrifying.
Felton. Like, it's just like all these, like, actually, Felton would be a mini dungeon. You come out with a heart container, or a piece of heart, rather. But, yeah, that's how I feel about it. So, like, we'll see if this game holds.
Those were some really specific jokes to people.
But we have some Delaware listeners who are like, oh, I know Felton. But yeah, but that's how I feel about this game. And also, the music complaint we had last time with Mustin, it's still holding strong.
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, bits of music where, like, that sounds pretty nice. Like, a little, like, whistle, whistle, whistle. But otherwise, it's like, water. And it's like, okay, well, Zelda's known for its music. If you buy the OS2, there's probably like 200 tracks on it. But when you're playing the game, it's like I might hear a snippet every 20 minutes.
I gotta say, what I loved about I think about new Zelda games. I think about my playthrough of Tunic, because Tunic felt like a classic Zelda, but like kind of in this large open space where the music was the same theme, but had all of these different variations on the theme depending on where you were in the world, and it would like fade in and out. So it was always kind of the same song, but wasn't. But there was a theme that played through the entire game, and I was like, "Wow, that's a great idea. Why aren't they doing it in other games? You know, like maybe the world of Tunic is so much smaller than say Breath of the Wild."
The solution is simple though: GTA Radio,
and Zelda Radio.
Yeah, literally. Like, it kills me that they never did that. They have, and Nintendo has been known for doing it. They have a breadth of musical options throughout the entirety of the series that they generally reuse when they need to, right? They could just take a bunch of overworld variations, create a playlist of them, and give you a button that says, when you don't want to listen to music anymore, press it to turn it off. And they can still have the key bits of sound come in when they're needed. But otherwise, you can choose if you want to have Zelda music playing while you're running around the map.
I love it. Link's running around. He's got like an iPod on, like an old school iPod or Zune. He's got a Zune.
He literally has a Switch in the game.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They call it the Pernell pad or something.
He's got a Switch.
He's carrying an actual Switch.
Yeah.
So they're telling me they couldn't give him some sort of earbud?
No, they did that. They did that in the Final Fantasy 15, right? Where all the boys are in the car.
Yeah, in the car you can hear music.
And it just plays like music from all the different Final Fantasy games in there. And so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's like, I feel like that solution would fix the problem for everybody. People who don't want music can just turn it off. People who do want music can turn it on when they feel like they want it. You know, that covers that. And I mean, I get for a lot of people that's a small complaint, but it's such an easy solution.
For you and I, who have been podcasting about video game music for almost 8 years, it's kind of important.
It's very for me, for us, it's very important.
All right, so let's talk about this week's topic. This week's topic is interesting.
Not Breath of the Wild.
It's not Breath of the Wild. It's education. Now, I just said in the text, hey, Pernell, education. And you're like, all right, got it. And I thought maybe you were going to pick like, oh, this is a song that plays in the school of something, something, something. Or in this section is a library.
Nope.
And in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to pick Edutainment. Edutainment PC games.
Huh. Well, fancy that. I kind of did a little bit of everything there.
Okay.
I didn't do like schooly stuff, but I was like games where I either are meant to be taught something or you can learn something from playing them. So
now the way you were talking about the new Zelda game, it sounded a little bit like a amazing. Was it the Amazing Machine. No, The Incredible Machine. Yeah, where you make your own like Rube Goldberg. I guess you can make it. Someone's gonna have insane YouTube videos of the new Zelda doing like a giant Rube Goldberg machine.
That would be nice, but then that becomes a question of if the system can handle that. But if they can, someone will find it.
I did see someone make a big person with a giant flaming thing, and the thing like flamed out, and the whole thing exploded.
Oh yeah, because that's the rule of the internet.
Yeah,
if you give people the capability, they're going to do it.
They're going to do that.
Yes,
they're going to make that.
PictoChat.
Oh gosh, PictoChat. Remember PictoChat. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be playing music from today, and we also have some board game beats to get through. One that we've actually played together, which is very interesting, and one that I've been wanting to play that you've been bringing out for a while that we never got around to. That you finally got around to playing.
Yes,
which I'm really excited about. I definitely want to talk about that one first, but I have a bunch of tracks to pick from. We're going to start with music from. This is an unknown composer. This game is... Oh, no. Which one do I want to do?
Dun, dun, dun.
No. We're going to start with the Super Nintendo. This is Bronchi, the Bronchiosaurus.
What?
He teaches you about asthma.
This is a Super Nintendo game?
Composed by John Okay, it says Bartlett in some of the notes, but then when I actually looked up gameplay online, which is hard to find because Bronchi, the Bronchiosaurus is not a very common game. The credits at the end of the game says John Bartelt. So maybe it's John Bartelt. I don't know. This is Cave 1 from Bronchi, the Bronchiosaurus. I know. This is like Captain Novolin all over again. Remember Captain Novolin?
No!
That's a game that they made to teach kids about insulin and diabetes.
I just like that these games exist, even if I've never heard of them.
I don't know if they're... we'll find out more before we get back, but I'm not sure if these are licensed by Nintendo.
Can't imagine they would be.
And we're back. You're listening to Bronchi the Bronchiosaurus. Did not look it up. This is for the Super Nintendo. And yes, it teaches kids all about asthma. Educational game developed by the American studio WaveQuest and published by Raya Systems. This is an interesting one. Oh, it is part of the series that does Captain Novolin. Okay, so it's all.
So what's the company name that developed it?
It was, I just said, it was developed by WaveQuest.
That's why it eluded me, because I was expecting it to be a name that stuck. Like, oh, it was developed by, Chemco or something. WaveQuest.
So here, I'm just going to read the plot from Wikipedia. I just have to do it. Now, the game attempts to teach children about asthma. Years ago, meteors struck the prehistoric city of San Sarion. The explosions covered the earth with clouds of dust, causing asthma in the dinosaur world. The dinosaurs built a mighty wind machine to clear the air, but their plans were thwarted by Mr. Rexo, who stole the machine, hid its pieces over Sansorion, and forced other dinosaurs to protect them. the two friends, Bronchi and Trachea,
That's actually pretty cool.
Tracheotomy, with the help of their sidekicks, Sam and Kyla, must find the missing machine parts before the dust returns and save the planet.
They lost their steam on Sam and Kyla.
But Bronchi and Trachea can develop shortness of breath from tar, cigarette smoke, furry animals, and other obstacles in the game.
I just find it interesting that this situation was written to occur, but then a villain, for no reason, just decided to say, hey, I'm dealing with this problem too, but I want you all to suffer more, so I'm going to just take the machine and destroy it.
I think this is going to be the cover image for the show. It's just this dinosaur with an inhaler. It's so funny.
I was thinking about this actually today, so it's weirdly coincidental that this comes up right now, but the idea of shows when we were kids, or even later on, where the villain, their goal made no sense. Like, that's where I came from. I remember watching I was thinking about the whole good versus evil concept. A friend of mine asked a question about Metal Gear Solid, saying, is Big Boss a bad guy? In quotes, like bad guys versus good guys. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, it's been a while, but from what I recall, Metal Gear Solid, the villain was depending on who you asked because they were written to be convoluted in that way, right? So villains in a lot of children's shows and a lot of the shows, even like teen shows, they had to be written with these very narrow-minded goals.
You needed a clear right and wrong.
This guy is bad, and we got to stop him.
The Joker's bad.
Bad.
He's just out there to cause mayhem, right?
But yeah, and the thing is, like, but the Joker, at least with Batman villains, it's like they're written in a way where it's like, if you die, they have like a whole convoluted.
Bad example. But think
about something like G.I. Joe, right?
I
guess G.I. Joe. It were meant to, if you were looking at it deeper, they'd be like, they're terrorists, or basically Cobra's a terrorist organization. But their goal was usually just take over the world and
G.I. Joe is the terrorist organization.
But like this, like the question becomes like, so what are you going to do with it once you get it? And it's like, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, world domination, and then once they have dominated the world,
like what's the point of doing that?
I don't know.
Like it's just stress. Like I don't know why you'd want to dominate the world. Wouldn't you just want to have, I don't know, enough resources to make your country happy? Why?
Yeah.
But then you think of something like this, same concept, right? It's like you have asthma was introduced to the dino world and no dinosaur is immune to it. So rather than just stick with the solution and move on, this one evil dinosaur goes, I liked when people were coughing and dying of lack of breath. I'm going to dismantle this machine, but then pay dumb dinosaurs who are willing to guard the parts to the machine that made their lives better.
He's doing it because he's making a killing. He's making a fortune off of selling all these dinosaurs inhalers in video games, educational video games about asthma.
Maybe that's what it is. But then you would also think maybe the dinosaurs wouldn't be like, wait a minute, isn't he the guy that destroyed the machine in the first place? We can't be buying inhalers. Just take it over. Let's just rush this guy and take what's ours. Our oxygen, our very air that we breathe.
I like the idea. Okay, so there's edutainment, educational video games run the gamut of something like this, right? Where it's just a platforming game where every once in a while it's like, well, I got to stay away from the cigarette smoke. I got to stay away from the cat dander because that's going to be
this cat dinosaur.
Because my dinosaur can't breathe. And then there's the other side of edutainment games where it's like math blasters or number munchers.
That's where I'm at.
Where it's like you're doing math.
That's
like
where I'm a Viking.
You're actually practicing math. There's no like under the guise of a video game. This is just a straight up really crappy platformer.
Hey, it could be good. It could be lots of fun. It could be fun.
I don't know. I was watching some playthroughs on it last week, and I thought probably not.
Poor dinosaurs.
But if you were a kid with asthma, maybe it would do it for you. Maybe that was your thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's
asthma-based video games were the only things you would enjoy.
Well, I gotta say, like there is quality to the idea of introducing sometimes simple, sometimes complex concepts to people through a fun medium. I think the big hiccup becomes when the entire game is based around something like that. That's what makes it harder. Because, like, imagine if there was just a section of Metal Gear Solid where you had to deal with a community that was being forced with, like, mass hysteria via asthma, right? Suddenly, they could have this whole dialogue between Snake and Otacon. Like, Otacon, what is with all this oxygen? What is with all this dander in the air? Like, well, you see, this terrorist organization in 1976 set up a dander distribution machine and resulted in this community being subjugated to pollen. Well, why won't they leave Otacon? They can't afford to leave their homes. They're stuck here. So where do they get the asthma inhalers from? Well, you see, they have this thing where by performing slave labor for this totalitarian government, he will donate inhalers to the community, which is how they are able to thrive.
And they developed Metal Gear, one giant inhaler for the entire community. They all just walk up to the robot and sniff it in.
Metal weeds. But something like that, as corny as I just made that sound, if a good writer got their hands on the concept, you could turn a pretty interesting idea. I could take an entire narrative, but introduce some individual components to it.
I think it's all right. I think it's good. As far as the music goes in this game, this is pretty par for the course. It's got a very funky bass line, very very tight drum sounds, which is interesting. I feel like this sound font or these instrument sounds aren't really common in Super Nintendo games. They're very crisp.
Yeah, I like the
And the kind of bells in the background remind me of Final Fantasy X a whole lot. Or Chrono Trigger.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So
anything that reminds of Chrono Trigger is a win for me. So.
All right. So let's get into some more music, and then let's talk about some board games.
Okay.
Think about that.
That sounds good to me.
All right.
So I'll pick a track from my first choice here, being the game Big Brain Academy, Brain versus Brain. Speaking of doing math, right?
Yeah. I love these games.
And the track title, from my understanding at least, is just Party A, composed by Kenta Nagata.
Yeah, I think so.
Welcome back. You're listening to Brain vs. Brain, Big Brain Academy. Yeah, I reversed those. I did it intentionally.
Brain v. Brain.
Brain v. Brain. It's like a court case.
The people versus Brain.
Versus Brain.
We're going to hear from the Brain first. We got a problem with these people.
Okay, and you're going to hear all about it. But what you are hearing is Party A from the game Big Brain Academy, Brain vs. Brain, composed by Kenta Nagata. And the Brain vs. Brain series has been around since the DS era, I believe, is when they first started. Because originally there was Brain Age and then Big Brain Academy. But I was actually surprised to see that Nintendo decided to continue the chain by releasing this version, which is on the Nintendo Switch. Because I can picture a lot of people just not liking these games. But I was not one of those people. I think they're a lot of fun.
And they're fun. They bend your brain a little bit. And when they're competitive, they're really competitive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is really fun.
And I feel like there's two schools of thought when it comes to games that are competitive based on knowledge or an application of knowledge. You have the school of thought where a person might say, well, it is a between two people, of course. One school where a person's like, I'm really knowledgeable and I got this. And the other person's like, I can't keep up. I'm just not as smart as you. And you have the other camp where it's just like, okay, either it's close enough in skill level that you can be like, okay, this can go either way. I'm just having fun engaging in the process. Okay, there's three schools. Because in the third school,
another school,
is just people who just kind of enjoy the idea of saying, I can slowly get better at this through application over and over again. like remember like you do flashcards in like math class,
Yeah,
like the multiplication
You're
tables.
saying like you feel like, okay, I may not get this, but through repetition I can improve.
Exactly.
Right.
And I feel like I am a combination of the second and third schools there. Like I remember one of the big games that this game had was 3-dimensional set of cubes that were stacked on top of each other, and the game would say, how many cubes are there?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. And at first you're like doing, I think you're trying to count every individual cube, and of course you're going to be slow. You're counting individual cubes. And then the next thing is like, okay, wait a minute. If I can just get the surface area around the structure, I can just do a quick in-my-head equation to go, this is how many cubes are deep inside the structure, and here's how many cubes are outside of it. Boom, I have the total. And that's what your ultimate goal is, to get better to be able to make that distinction. And I want to say the game does, over time, give you little bits of pointers here and there to say, try this method to get better at this. So you can learn. Now, being that this is a Nintendo game and they want lots of people to buy, they don't go bonkers. Like, you're not taking, like, algebra in this thing. Though it would be amazing if they did, because I kid you not, if a game came out that was like Big Brain Academy that taught, like, linear expressions and, I don't know, surface area, like, actual, like, full-on, like, architectural equations, I'd be in. I'd be 100% in on the purchase. But as it is right now, I'm still comfortable with what I got here. And this game is a lot of fun, especially if you're competing with each other. If you're really bad with fractions, this game will fix that real fast.
I remember the fractions on the DS version.
Mm-hmm.
Now, other competitive things that you like to do, Pernell, is board gaming.
I'm about to say, wait a minute. This is a question that's being posed to me. I like competitive cook-offs.
You like, you like competitive everything.
That is
actually, you like competitive everything.
That is true. As long as I have a chance. Otherwise, I will opt out so fast.
So you don't like competitive everything.
I like competitive everything I have a shot at. Otherwise, it's an exercise in futility. But nah, this is a board game. This, I guess, we're starting our first beat of board.
Yeah, it's the
board
first
game beats.
Yeah, we're on the beat. We're on the beat, Pernell. This is the first beat.
All right, so the first game is actually a game I've been sitting on for literal months. I got this from the designer at PAX Unplugged back in December. Remember December? I do. This game is called Block by Block Uprising by Out of Order Games. And it made me kind of sad because I remember when he offered to give me a copy of it, he said he has a lot of difficulty getting this theme to be talked about on like shows and stuff, which is why he has a hard time marketing it, which I think is ridiculous because the theme can be heavy, but it's a reasonable theme, right? The idea behind this game is that you are citizens living in a city that has been oppressed by authority, by law enforcement. It's inspired by 21st century protest movements, riots, and popular uprisings. And while everyone may not agree on what said uprisings is about, like why people are rioting and upset, the point of it is a lot of things in our society have come of basically were accomplished by people saying, I'm tired, and we're going to do something about it beyond the norm.
We can go all the way back to the French Revolution if we want to.
Absolutely.
I think that's fair to say.
And this game takes that concept and kind of like sets it up in a gameplay mechanic. In this game, you are a bunch of citizens, and I'm just going to call it Blocktown because it doesn't have an official name.
Everyone's like a little cube.
They're all little cubey people, and you're in this town. You're tired of what's going on. You're being oppressed. You've been oppressed for too long, and now it's time to take your city back. And you take the choice of one of 4 different factions. I want to say it's the students, the prisoners, the workers, and crap, I'm forgetting the 4th one. But anyway, there's 4 factions, and you kind of play it in a fashion similar to the classic game Pandemic, where you start out in a location, and you are trying to expand throughout the city by moving from place to place, building up structures in these locations, which allows you different abilities, such as to recruit new units to join your army and your cause. And then fulfill a series of different conditions to win the game, like maybe capture different key points in the city, or, like acquire a certain number of items that are needed to like help feed your community, things like that. Usually revolving around like liberating specific zones or types of zones, though. However, the hiccup is that each round, between each player, even not even after everybody, in between players, the police are on the move, and they will station themselves in different areas of the city, will move throughout the city. There are actually like police vehicles, like transport vehicles that will like move through the city and like barrel through locations. And if you end a turn while the police are encompassing your location, they will either destroy your support facilities that you've built, or they'll capture your people and lock them up.
Oh.
So you're managing the number of people that are on the board and the number of facilities that are on the board with the ability to push back against them. And push back is interesting because there are dice rolls involved that determine what you're able to do on a turn.
So there's some randomizing of what you're able to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's dice rolls for that. There's also the fact that you have the ability to push back before these things occur. Let's say, for example, the police show up on a tile. There's 3 police officers on a tile, and you have some units there. Depending on what you've rolled, you can say, I have the means to push out 2 police officers to a neighboring community. So away from where we're at, and gives us time to escape. Or you can straight up say, no, I'm knocking this one unit off the board completely. But you have to have a pretty decent dice roll for that. And also the amount of die roll numbers you need is dependent on the district you're battling in. Mm. So there's a fair bit of that going on. And then the factions have abilities that are unique to them that determine how you'll perform. For example, I was the prisoners when I played this. Mm. And the prisoners' abilities, they get 1+1 attack when they do combat against the police and the authoritarians. So I might say, well, you are in trouble. They're going to arrest you in 1 turn, but I can move into your district, and before everything's said and done, I'm going to just make all my units fight back and take them out so that you can escape on your next turn.
Oh, okay. So is this game fully collaborative then?
Yes, there is a mode that has like a light competitive element where it's like you're all trying to push them out, but you also have your own personal goals. Sort of like how Dead of Winter works, where you're trying to hoard the food.
You're all trying to stay alive, but like one person's like, well, my character has a daughter who they're trying to feed, so I'm trying to keep all the food for myself.
Something like that, exactly. Or you might need a certain number of cards or something like that. But the game is lengthy. Like, I want to say our first game session took us like dang near like 3 hours.
Yikes.
But that was us goofing around, collaborating, learning the rules and all that. And the game seemed more complicated than it actually is. Like I said, it's easily comparable to Pandemic.
That's interesting. Now, I asked for a competitive game, Pernell, and this is very collaborative.
Yeah, this is not competitive unless you do that side rule thing there. Right. But honestly, I could go either way. I mean, sometimes I like having games that are like collaborative, especially in the sense where this isn't as strong on that as, say, like Spirit Island, where there's so much to consider that you can't even couch quarterback another player.
Right.
Because there is definitely the potential for that here. But
I believe it, yeah, especially if it's straight up like, move here to push these guys out and I'll come over here and help you. That means like on your turn, you might have like 3 people coming near you and saying like, hey, why don't you do this? And then I'll come over here and do that. And then you're like, well, that's my turn. I guess I'm done thinking about it.
And that's why a house rule that I suggest for this game and any game like it is that you can ask for assistance, but you can't command it. And also, you can also say things like, man, if only I could do such and such and such. And if someone responds to that, so be it. But if they don't, tough to bully. That means that they heard your plight and said, I don't care. I have a plan.
I like that. You can ask for assistance, but you can't just give people assistance.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's important for these collaborative games because with the wrong set of people, or if the people are just the wrong, even to the right people to play a game, but the wrong grouping of people, it can get really almost boring, for half the players are playing, half the players are just doing what the other half the players are saying.
Yeah, if somebody's literally just telling everybody what to do, are you really even having fun anymore?
You could say that the game itself maybe it doesn't have enough going on for each person to have individual things to do, but the fact that everyone's playing together at once, it's going to happen. It's hard to avoid.
The neighbors. That's the fourth faction.
Neighbors.
Workers, neighbors, prisoners, and students.
Oh,
there
okay.
we go. I was determined to figure out. I was like, what's this fourth faction?
Yeah, you took a picture of the board, and I was like, you even had this for a while, and I've been really wanting to play it.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it because just to kind of reiterate on this segment, if we ever get a game and the game is not enjoyed, it will not come up on the show. Which basically means we might get letters saying, are you ever going to talk about our game? And the answer will be, nope. Sorry, it just wasn't our jam. But thankfully, this is another product that is a hit. It also doesn't hurt that I'm easily amused. Though, it's funny as I say that because, as you've seen, I have reached the point, I've hit like critical mass on game acquisitions now. Like, I don't even know anymore.
You have favorites, though. You have favorites. You can say that there's some games, you find something you like about most games.
Absolutely.
But I know that you have favorites.
Oh, also absolutely. Yeah. There's No one's going to tell me Res Arcana is a bad game. I'll yell at them for it.
Yeah, we'll just keep playing it until they like it.
Absolutely.
All right, our next track, Pernell, is coming from, I'm going to do it, Dr. Kawashima's Brain Training.
Well, that game was fun too, though.
I think, isn't this just Brain Age?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It was like, well, Brain Age was the first game, but then I want to say Dr. Kawashima's Brain Training. I have to double check, but I want to say there was like a downloadable game.
Okay.
Like it was eShop downloadable on the Nintendo DS.
Yeah,
and that was Dr.
confused
Kawashima's.
because like Dr. Kawashima is kind of like the mascot on a lot of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dr. Kawashima is, the eminent professor of Nintendo, of teaching everyone how to count things quickly. We're going to listen to the music from that game, Dr. Kawashima's Brain Training for the Nintendo DS. This is music from Tutorial and Setup. This is Tutorial and Setup. Dr. Kawashima's Brain Training Nintendo DS. Yeah.
This is good. And I realize now.
So good.
So if I'm understanding what I'm reading correctly, and I could be wrong about this. So Brain Age 1 and 2 are this game, but in another region, it was called Brain Training, Dr. Kawashima's Brain Training. But then later on, when they came out on the Switch, the new one for Switch just carried on the Dr. Kawashima's Brain Training label, and they ditched the Brain Age label.
Interesting.
So the confusion averts. I was like, wait a minute, I've heard this title before.
Yeah, I heard this music because I feel like we've listened to this playing the actual game.
Yeah, because Brain Age is freaking great.
Yeah,
I loved
fun.
this.
It's fun. This is music by Soshiabe, Minako Hamano, Yuichi Ozaki, and Masami Yone. They are all credited as sound and music, but there's no official soundtrack, so we don't know who did what.
All we do know is that this thing is a bop.
It's really good. Yeah. You hear this every time in between games where it's showing you like what to do next. It's playing this music.
Is this one of the ones you were able to keep, or did you get rid of this game?
Oh, we owned it, didn't we?
Yeah, because I had it, and I'm pretty sure you bought it too.
My DS games are somewhere. I don't know where. I recently found my DS, and it's over there on the shelf. But yeah. I know my DS games are somewhere. I probably packed them into a box, or maybe they're in one of those like plastic tubs, and I'll run into them.
We actually used to do multiplayer in this, like 4-player multiplayer, and like the equation solving mini game.
Are we sure this was we didn't just do the Wi-Fi sharing thing?
That's very possible too, because there was a lot of games I had where we did like that with Meteos. We did the Wi-Fi sharing, which that's a game I miss.
Because this one, like, you couldn't do like the full game, but I'll let you do like 4 or 5 of the games together.
Yes,
but it was great because like you didn't want to be the one feeling stupid at the end, so you're fighting as hard as you can, and everyone's like really invested in winning. And I've talked about it on the show, but that's some of my favorite times is sitting in the coffee shop in around Virginia or somewhere in Virginia with you, me, Christy, and Mike.
Just
Mike Myers,
doing equations.
Doing this thing, like doing like fast math, yelling at each other.
It's like, stop it! You push the guy, like, stop solving math so fast! Slow down!
I love that. That was so much fun.
Slow down, Goober. You're not in college yet.
Oh my God. Get a degree from Dr. Kawashima's university.
I did. The funny part, I actually do have
math.
some. I do have some board games to bring out at some point, and I haven't gotten them played yet. But they basically are revolving around like solving math equations, like putting the equations together. Lovelace versus Babbage, and then Sentient.
I would like to. Yeah, I remember you brought that one a few times, right? I could like look at the cards. And I'm like, oh, you're building like math equations that are like the AI machines of the future or something.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this next game you have here, this next board game.
There's nothing mathy about this.
I think this is the last one we played together. I think
it is. It is. This is Wormholes by Peter McPherson and published by AEG Games. So this was a game that I was actually kind of worried I wouldn't like, but when we played it together along with your nephew, this ended up being a blast.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It was David. Yeah, he fell asleep through the game. Poor guy was so tired.
He was exhausted.
This is an interesting puzzle. It's very simple to play, but
yeah, I think
simple rules, but whoosh.
Yeah, it's definitely worth noting that this game is extremely light, which means that if you're the type of person that's like, I like board games, but I'm not sure if what to get into to get started, this is a good example of one, because the simple premise is you are a space courier transporting passengers across the galaxy from planet to planet, and the board is hex-based, so it's like traveling from hex to hex based on the number of spaces you can move per turn. So you'll have cards that dictate where people want to go in the galaxy, and you're transporting them from here to there and everywhere. Over time, and the reason where the title comes in, of course, is the fact that you'll find yourself wanting to become more efficient. How to get people around the galaxy faster than waiting a long amount of turns. And the solution is wormholes. You can put up to 5 total wormholes on the board.
Yeah, it's like Portal. Like you have like a portal gun, and so you fly around slowly, but you can drop portals from place to place.
Exactly. You can put down like the exit point when you start out and then start moving around, and then when you get to where you want to be, you put the other half of the terminal down, and now all of a sudden, you can just jump from here to there and save yourself a lot of time getting around. And everyone else is doing the same thing. But one added element that makes it especially attractive in this game is that you can use other people's wormholes as well. You have to pay them to do it, though it doesn't come out of your pocket personally. They just get paid, which means you're not limited by how much money you've got, quote unquote, but due to the fact that you're helping them, you're still questioning, is it worth taking this person's method of transportation to make my deliveries?
Yeah, like my efficient from here to here to here to here works, but only if I use Pernell's 2 portals over there. But if I do that, he's making money.
And I absolutely made sure to put my portals in a spot where it's like, look, I'm encroaching.
Yeah.
So if you want in.
And that's the whole game. And that's all there is to it. Like, I think you play to a certain number of points, or it's all the portals are down or something. And like that was it.
Mm-hmm. And it keeps things from being too heady.
I like
it's not
that.
complex.
Yeah. When you land, you can't like exchange passengers unless you land on a planet or like in the main central hub where you can like, okay, you let people off and get new ones. Which is very thematic. And I like that a lot. I will say that it's going to take more than 1 or 2 playthroughs to really utilize and fully use all the mechanics of this game.
That is
because your first playthrough of most board games is like, I want to try every mechanic to see what the strategies feel like, or like what's going to work for me, or how it plays. In this game, you do it once and the game's over, and it's like, wait a minute, I could have played that better, and you want to play it again and again and again.
And I will say, and we're kind of giving people an easy way to jump the curve on this, is that when you do play the first time, I think what you naturally tend to do is you'll go, okay, how do I build the most efficient network? Period. That's your thought. So you're going to go from here to there and drop your stuff. But once you've gotten past that, the main metric of the game is twofold. How do I take most advantage of what other people are doing?
Yeah.
And how to make them take advantage of me. Like specifically. Because you're like, okay, I have 5 portals, but it's going to take me forever to do that. But if I see he's working out a portal route here, I can encroach knowing he's going to finish it.
Yeah, like he's drifting off of this direction, so maybe if we go together, he'll use my portals to get home. I like that.
But like this game, it's a case of simple yet effective. I love me some complex games, though I'll admit sometimes I need someone to help me learn the rules because it's a lot to take in. But this game hits the spot where I feel like I could take this to the bar. I could take this to a friend's house who doesn't play a lot of tabletop games.
Super light, super duper light. Really easy to explain.
Yes, and it's enough to it's heavy enough, quote unquote, that I can get away from let's just play Cards Against Humanity circle of things. But it's also light enough that I don't have to feel concerned about someone going, oh, this is too much for my brain, man. I just want to take a nap. So this is a solid pick for that. If you're playing a lot of heavier games and you're focused on that, though, this might not be for you. But if you're the type that wants light stuff or you want to mix it up every once in a while, Peter McPherson's Wormholes is a solid bet by AEG.
Good.
I am good.
I would say this is up there. Like if you like spacey stuff, and it's all just movement. There's no fighting. There's none of there's no you
can't really block anyone off.
Yeah, there's no money that you're trying to do. There's no mathiness like that. It's a lot like a Gravwell, and it's only movement based, and you're just trying to figure out movement around other players.
Yes.
And so this game is movement based, but instead of in a linear fashion, pushing and pulling each other in a straight line, it's just anywhere across the map.
Yes,
which is pretty cool.
And there are a few special tiles on the board, from what I recall, that have special properties that you can utilize. But let's be honest, if that feels like it's too much for you, you can just ignore them. There's nothing requiring you to use the zip line or the nebula repellent or whatever.
Yeah, we didn't use a lot of the fun because I think the tiles kind of come out randomly too. So you're like, well, I'm not going to go this way.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just play the game.
Yeah.
So highly recommended. Good game. Keep it light and simple, and have fun with your friends.
Yeah, I like it.
Wormholes.
All right, what's your next track?
Not from Wormholes.
No.
Though I do feel like a future episode we should do a board game music composition list. That would be pretty fun, I think.
Okay, like music for games?
Like video games, that would be excellent for a board game session.
I like that. Yeah.
But for now, my next track actually comes from a game that I've been meaning to get to. In fact, I'm going to check during the break to see if I already bought it for the Switch. This is called Letters Quest Grimm's Journey, and the track title is called Lapin Lab. And the composer is apparently anonymous because per the creator of the game, the design to develop the composer didn't want to be known. So it's a secret to everybody.
Oh, interesting.
But him.
Or them.
Welcome back. You're listening to Lapin Lab from the game Letter Quest Grimm's Journey, composed by an anonymous composer. Ooh.
That's the spookiest of them all.
So, Letter Quest Grimm's Journey is a game that I admittedly purchased and didn't boot up yet because of course I did. Of course I did. But I bought it for a reason, and that is because the potential for this game for me was very high. The potential for this game to be good. Best way to describe it is basically Battle Scrabble. You are a Grim Reaper progressing through environments with your battle scythe, looking to reap enemies for whatever reason. Again, I haven't booted my copy yet. And you're battling by using words. You spell words out to do damage to your opponents. And the way you spell the words of which you actually write out and different buffs determine what kind of damage you do. Like some enemies might take extra damage from certain letters, or you might have bonuses that apply to like letters of like 5 letters or more in the word. Any number of things. And it's so much so that the learning element comes in the form of you. I mean, obviously, of course, it could be one of two things too, where you're learning new words, you expand your vocabulary. At first, you might find yourself just doing enough to do damage. You might find yourself even using your phone and be like, oh, I gotta find a word that uses these letters, like going through like an anagram app or something. But, and I can say this from experience with other games like this, when you use words frequently enough in games for points, you eventually start to wonder what the heck the word means. And then you start to wonder, subconsciously mind you, how to use it in other sentences going forward. People like to ask me questions all the time about where'd your vocabulary come from, because believe it or not, my vocabulary is a lot better than people might give me credit for. And the answer...
Who's not giving you credit for your vocabulary?
You'd be surprised, man. But that vocabulary stems from RPGs,
right,
and just general video games that are built around using words that I wouldn't otherwise utilize. So if I used a word in a game that brought me points, but it seemed really cool sounding, like, what does this mean? I look it up, it means this. Bam, I got it. And now I'll be having a conversation with somebody, and out of nowhere, I'll have this moment where, like, stop, I can use the word. And then you make the statement, you're like, epiphany.
Well, the
hypothesize.
What's funny is if you learn a word by reading it, but you never heard it out loud, so you think it's pronounced a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like pronounced or something like that, and everyone's like, "What did you say?" And you're like, "I don't know. I've only read the word. I don't."
Video gaming taught that heavily too, because back in the day when RPGs were not voiced, we came up with the ways to pronounce things like Bahamut. No, we called it Bahamut, but it's actually pronounced Bahamut.
Bahamut.
But
for me, it was playing Clue or Cluedo as a kid, and there's Colonel Mustard, and I was like, "Who's Colonel? I'm Colonel Mustard.
Who's Colonel Mustard?
Colonel Mustard. Yeah, I know the mustard word because I like hot dogs. But what's Colonel?
Like, the name's Mustard.
This game kind of reminds me of that one board game that you've brought over a few times called Spell Smashers.
I love Spell Smashers.
Where everyone's got a hand of cards of letters, and there's monsters on the field. And you're trying to take out the monsters by spelling the words out. And then if you some of the monsters, you get trophies back that are like, it's the X, but it's like extra damage or gives you bonuses by using that monster's letter.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time getting my head around that one, but like,
it's so good
because it's like playing Scrabble with just your hand, but with like optional other letters out there.
And then you play with Christy, and we're just like, how are you doing this? She was like 7-letter word, 8-letter word,
my
7-letter word.
Is a killer at these word games.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just fun, but oh my gosh, Scrabble is a tough time.
That's why I like games like that compared to games like Scrabble. Because Scrabble, if your vocabulary is lacking, you are going to lose.
Well, I mean, okay, there's one thing where it's like, if you have a good vocabulary, if you have a Scrabble vocabulary, because there's words you'll only ever use in Scrabble.
Quidjibo.
Yeah, or it's just the 2-letter words that no one ever uses.
Mm-hmm.
They're all out there.
But like with that game, your only real recourse to get around having a limited vocabulary in the scope of the game is using the tile spaces, which of course everyone has access to. And you're going to struggle harder to get them in a situation where someone that can make a longer word can reach it before you. But in a game like Spell Smashers, you can compete by using buffs or by using like the different trophies to kind of bump your score up for a smaller word.
Yeah, it's kind of like a meta game on top of the word game, which I think is really cool. I mean, in Scrabble, you can imagine there's dragons on the board fighting the letters.
But they ain't scoring you.
But they're not scoring. They're not giving you any points. All right, my last track here is coming from a classic game that taught us all how to type. Mavis Beacon. Mavis Beacon everywhere. There are so many Mavis Beacon.
So imagine if that game was actually worse voice and we learned her name was Mavis.
Mavis or Mavis? I don't know.
We don't know.
I was a Mavis. It could be Mavis. Mavis sounds right. Mavis. I kept saying Beacon, but it's Beacon. Like Goldie Beacon College. This is we're gonna listen to the Mavis. I'm gonna say it both ways. Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing Part 12. It's a PC CD-ROM game. Came out in the mid-90s, maybe late 90s. Composer's unknown. This track is easy listening.
That is marvelous. Be calm. Thank you.
That's my favorite part. Mavis Beacon, y'all. Mavis Beacon teaches typing.
He does.
Use that left hand on that home row.
I say, who is Mavis Beacon?
You know how like it's Professor X, and he's like he teaches mutants like how to use their psychic abilities. There's Mavis Beacon in another college teaching people how to use their typing abilities.
But only mutants.
A mutant. You use your mutant abilities to type.
Let's talk about a limited
ability. Wolverine gets upset while he's typing, and those claws come out right through the keyboard. You know,
curses bub.
All he types is bub over and over again.
I type what I want to type.
In the game, the program says, "Okay, next time type a letter without using the word bub in it." And he's like, "Oh no!"
He just destroys it. He just claws it up.
I'll just write a letter.
I always laughed at that, too. I feel like I may even brought up on the show in the past, but it came up recently when we were talking about mature cartoons that may have still been limited to, like, children's tropes, but they carried over adult concepts.
Okay.
And X-Men was definitely one of those cartoons in the 90s, but then it didn't click for me until I was an adult that Wolverine had a power that was, well, many of them did, but specifically Wolverine had a power that was designed to just like rip and tear. He was always an aggressive character in the show, but he never actually cuts anyone.
He couldn't.
Ever.
Yeah.
He only ever used his claws on actual robots or objects, but never a person.
That's why I loved in the movies. Even in the movies, they were a little like light with it. But Logan, the movie Logan, was like straight up violent. Super violent.
And I can honestly appreciate that because I can see some people being like, does it really need to be violent? And the response is, well, that's the character.
Yeah, that's what he does, right? It's so funny. I put on Disney Plus last night, and I was looking through I was honestly looking for like Cars and like, you know, silly like kids movies. But like I don't have it separated from like adult content on Disney Plus, which is so funny to say. There's like Deadpool shows up on the list of like Disney items. I'm like, oh, there's Bambi, there's Deadpool. I'm like, should we watch Deadpool again?
Only if there's a Bambi cameo.
One of these things don't exactly fit. But yeah. Wolverine is definitely pretty violent. I would say Cyclops is too. He just looks at somebody and they explode, right?
Yeah, his power is so unfortunate. It's like I can only look at people by wearing these special glasses.
Yeah, and Rogue can never touch somebody. Like, that's pretty terrible. Right?
Yeah. That's why it always killed me. There was an episode of the show where someone came up with a way to neutralize mutant powers.
Right.
I think it was a collar that they had to wear. And they all ultimately ended up fighting to get the collars destroyed and removed so that they could have their powers again. But you would have figured Scott and Rogue would have just kept one for themselves just to have.
Like you said, Rogue. It's like I've only ever read that word.
I've heard it both ways.
I've heard it both ways.
But like Rogue and Cyclops would have just kept one.
Some of these would want that, right? A Juggernaut. Juggernaut might want that. Juggernaut's like, maybe I don't want to be this huge, terrifying person anymore.
But Juggernaut's just awesome. Like, there's nothing bad about him per se, except I guess he doesn't have a delicate touch.
What about Colossus?
Nothing wrong with him either. If I remember correctly, he can revert back and forth.
Oh, I thought he was only metal all the time.
I'll have to double check, but in the cartoon, I could have sworn he could do both. Like, he could become the Metal Man. Otherwise, he was just the guy who would show up like, "Hi, Mulika," because he was like, I remember he had a name, a person he loved. He was like, Frolavin or something. We'll look it up later. But I remember in the show he was introduced not wearing the metal, but then he dons it when he gets into a skirmish.
I just know that if I were in this mutant world, I'd have like my power would be awesome, but like it would never work right. Like I'd be like, oh, I could stretch my legs out, but only one half of my body would go.
I want Domino's power. That was like my favorite one.
Who's Domino?
She had, if I remember correctly, Domino had the power of luck.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she was in Deadpool too.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah. Actually, that's what she really made that movie like for me. It was so funny how she would just like get through every situation. She just trusted that no matter what, it was just gonna work out.
But the funny part is like that power is dangerous for anyone that's not her.
That's not her.
Because it's like, I'll get through it. It has nothing to do with you.
I know, that's why everyone on that team did not make it, except for her.
Except for her.
And she's like, I'll be fine. I don't know about you guys.
I don't know about you guys.
Anyway, this song is classic adult contemporary. This transports me right back to an elevator in the 1980s at a mall, like a 1980s mall elevator, where like everyone's taking the escalator, but I'm in an elevator, and then you know that elevator's disgusting and filthy, and you know God knows what's been happening in there, but this music's playing in there anyway.
I just miss the malls in general. I miss malls. There's something, people talk about how they hate them or how we've moved past them, but I miss going to like Granite Run Mall or like malls that had like elevators and like Springfield Mall.
Concord Mall is so sad.
It is
so sad.
It's a miserable place.
The Granite Run Mall is massive and still kicking.
No. Let's catch that before Christianity. Granite Run's dead.
Granite Run's gone. I used to play DDR there, and then no. Granite Run Mall, I used to play Marvel Capcom there.
Oh.
Yes, and I used to not go to school and play video games there. And King of Prussia Mall is still kicking.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what the inside of that mall looks like, mind you, but yeah, the mall itself
never been there?
still... No, I mean current state of it.
Oh,
I don't know what it's like
It's
anymore.
gorgeous. I don't know why they make it so nice in there.
So there's actually still like lots of stores, though? They're not like empty
stores.
spaces?
Oh, yeah. No, it's full. We've been there a number of times. There's a Warby Parker store that I go get my
okay.
Stuff, and we walk around there sometimes. There's a lot of stuff in there. It's like, I don't think there's a food court. It's not, for some reason, it's all just like high-end stores in there. It's
amazing that I'm at King of Prussia every 2 weeks, and I've not been inside the mall since like 2010.
And there's nothing really to see. I mean, if you are, in quotes here, a guy, there's not a big reason to go in because there's a lot of clothing stores that are not geared towards guys.
I hear that, yeah. I've never been much for like clothing shopping across the board, which I need to change, but I just don't find it fun. I'm the guy that's like, I'll look at photos on Facebook memories from like 2008. I'm like, I'm still wearing that shirt.
Yeah, that's the Rockman shirt you're wearing right now.
Well, this one's not that old. This is from like 2015 or 16.
I am going through all my clothes and like getting rid of some old stuff, which is only leaving me. All I have left are Rhythm and Pixel shirts and East Coast Stamina tournament shirts, which are all falling apart. So I'm just going to order new ones.
I have actually done the scary contemplation of saying, is it time to just throw all my T-shirts away and focus on pure button-up?
You know, I mean, especially if you're like, okay, I'm just going to go out and meet some friends for beers. You know what? Wear that button-up. Dress nice. You know who you're going to run into.
That is true. And I don't know if they want to see me wearing a Rockman shirt if they do.
Rockman shirt's cool, but like,
I love this shirt. Somebody actually complimented me on it today at the restaurant.
Okay, of all your video game shirts, that's one of my favorites.
Like I sat down. Thank you. Yeah, I sat down at the bar to get my breakfast food, and the guy walks up. One of the chefs. He goes, "Dude, that's an awesome shirt." I'm like, "Oh, thank you."
I have my Run VGM shirt is starting to fade, so I actually ordered a new one.
That's a good idea.
Chris Murray's shirt. Shame on Chris Murray. I'm going to buy you a new one.
Why? What happened to his
shirt? We saw him at MagFest this past January, and his shirt was like, I was like, are you wearing a Run VGM shirt? Because I could barely tell. It was so beat up.
Hey, that's hard. That's well loved.
No. That is poorly washed.
well loved. And well loved. I stick by the well loved. That's like my lobster racing shirt. That thing is like dead to the world.
I threw that out. I couldn't.
My poor shirt.
See, if you get a Rhythm and Pixel shirt, if you get a Rhythm and Pixel shirt, you got to get the tri-blend. It's like an extra $5. It is so comfortable to wear.
Is this the marketing section of the show?
Well, I've been going through them because I fixed the SNK. I thought I fixed the logo on the SNK shirt so it wasn't too low. Mm-hmm. Now it's too high. But I ordered the tri-blend fabric, and it's so comfortable. I forgot where I was going with this. Anyway, if you're going to wash your shirts, turn them inside out, folks.
And I'm saying
turn them inside out.
And I'm vouching. I'm terrible at that. That's probably why my lobster racing shirt is dead.
Yeah, that's
but I have been turning them inside out since then.
Turn them inside out because that's the side you want to clean anyway, right? It's the side that's getting all sweaty.
The gunky.
Wow,
I spill lots of syrup.
Conversations all over the place today.
Hey, king of tangents.
The king of tangents. All right, we're on to your last track there, Pernell.
Okay, my final track on the show is going to be a pretty simple one, but I felt like in a game that involves education, though not in the conventional sense, this one is perfect for it, at least in my personal opinion. This came from the game Professor Layton and the Curious Village, i.e. the only Professor Layton game I've ever played despite owning all of them.
How many are there? I thought there was only one.
No, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to say there's like 6 of them.
Yikes!
Not including Professor Katrina, which is the spinoff they did. And there's another one coming.
That game was just a disaster.
No, I want to say crap, that was rough. That was so rough. I get it, man.
Pretty bad, yeah.
It was. Hey, I'll give you credit. It clicked for me.
Don't.
Don't give me credit. But this is the puzzles theme from the game, composed by Tomohito Nishihura. Nishihura. That's the puzzle theme from Professor Layton. Yes. If you can probably guess, there's a rhythm to this track. It is a rhythm that will both frustrate and put you to sleep.
Yeah. For you probably hear this a lot in the game.
For every puzzle.
And it's a short loop.
It's something that I felt needed to be on
2 minutes.
Yeah. Also by Tomohito Nishihura. This track, every puzzle plays it. I genuinely wish that it were a longer loop and that it provided more energy, because what ends up happening with this game is that every situation in a Professor Layton game revolves around a puzzle, which means you'll come up to a clock tower, you got to figure out what the clock tower's time is meant to be set to, and then Professor Layton will go, this reminds me of a puzzle. And then suddenly, boom, there's a puzzle. You got to solve it. And it'll be this weird level. Like, Jimmy likes eating biscuits at 5 p.m., but not like Janie, who eats them at 7 p.m. Figure out the optimal time where they can both eat biscuits in the afternoon, early evening, but not coincide with each other. And they each eat over a course of an hour. Like something ridiculous like that. I just made that puzzle up. It's an easy solution to it. Just have them eat one at 5 and one at 7. It's not complicated. Anyway, the point is,
they just take turns eating, and one takes a bite, the other takes a bite. One swallows, the other swallows, and then they both die.
No, they don't. These are quality biscuits.
Well, the first one ate the poison, but he ate it.
Why are they poison?
But he ate it quickly, so that he's going to anyway.
No one died.
The other person eats the poison slowly.
These are wholesome biscuits. No poison at all. This is a wholesome town.
So the trick is that the one person climbs on top of the scorpion across the river.
Well, that's actually a good puzzle.
And then the fox goes back, but there's only one set of footprints, and so the Jesus flies across the other side of the river and then gets killed by the scorpion.
No! He dies for the scorpion.
Oh, is the answer because the doctor's actually your mother?
That was an interest. That puzzle kills me. I never got sick of that. If you're like, what are you talking about? I'm trying to remember if there's like a name for the puzzle, but the Cosby Show made it famous in the late 80s. Like, what's the secret to this riddle? If the doctor's like, I can't operate him because that's my son. And it's like, why can't he operate him? Or something like that. But anyway, the puzzles in this game can get pretty ridiculous. And you'll find yourself staring at the screen trying to resolve it while this track is playing on this constant loop. The game does have a hint system, but you don't want to use the hint system because it costs you coins that you find hidden throughout the map. And I can't speak for everybody, but my prideful self was like, nope, I want to have a treasure trove of coins that I never spend. Or maybe there's an unlock that you can get at the end of the game if you don't spend any coins. Like you can buy rewards. Nope,
not at all.
Just meant to spend, and I refused to spend them. So I hoarded my coins, which made every puzzle a nightmare. It was worth it, though.
Self-imposed Pernell hard mode every time.
Every single time.
I want to finish the game with all the items
that were meant to be used.
The game is done. The game goes on the shelf. What happens to the items? Nothing happens.
Nothing. But I collected them all.
I mean, even in these games where you can sell back items, where it's like, I got like all these potions, you can sell it back for like thousands and thousands and thousands of gold. Nope, not going to do it.
Gotta have my 99.
What if I need that? Well, yeah, gotta max 9 out every item.
That is right. I buy the items, but I don't sell them.
Man, I mean, I would probably end up turning the music off in this game.
I can't. There's an intrinsic need to have game music playing while I play a game.
Yeah.
I can't. I have tried. There's been games where I'm like, I don't need music for this. I can just play this in the car while, everyone's hanging out. But you've noticed, I'll be talking with an earbud in my ear. I need the game music. I can't not have it. It's a weird feeling.
I often, very, very often, as soon as the game starts up, even before the music plays, even before there's sound within the game, I go into, if there's an edit, and thank God most people do this, but I go into the sound settings and I turn sound effects all the way down.
Sound effects?
Yeah, I constantly feel like games with like explosions and fights and things like that, the sound is way too loud. And so I turn the sound effects all the way down, and then the music stays where it's at.
So you don't just like reduce it, but you mute it entirely?
No, I don't mute it. I just reduce it. But
oh.
I end up having to turn it like way lower than
Let's imagine a game you throw grenades like...
Yeah, because half the time I'm like, oh, this is exciting and the music's playing, but then I can't hear the music because all this stuff's going on.
Yeah, I can understand that. Definitely worth turning the sound effects down a little bit. I turn voices up, music slightly below voices, and then sound effects slightly below voices.
That makes sense.
Slightly below the main audio.
Yeah, like of everything else. DDR would do this to me too, because like I feel like okay, I got the rhythm, I understand the music, but then like it plays like a crowd cheering sample and someone going, yes, you're doing great, and like I can't hear the music anymore.
Like I'm not dancing to cheers, I'm dancing to music.
Oh, it's so for someone who's played DDR like their entire life, that's so annoying to me.
Which is also in its own right kind of cool. I thought about that today too, or not today, the other day when you sent the link to the new Pump It Up that got announced.
Yeah, Pump Phoenix.
The fact of the matter being that I've played Pump It Up for more than half my life.
Yes.
And they're still making more. Like I had a kid, my friend Francis's son, he loves Rhythm Heaven quite a bit. And we were at a barbecue last week and we were talking, and he had the audacity, this little boy had the audacity to claim that he knew more about rhythm games than I did.
You've forgotten more about rhythm games than he'll ever know.
Absolutely. Wait a minute. No, but I was like, kid,
This doesn't add up.
I was there when the rhythm game was written. You just came into it. I was there when it was written.
Yeah, Rhythm Games was the mother, so they couldn't perform the operation.
Like, kid you not. Like, this is how I feel about this, and this is my final tangent, I swear. For 5 minutes. And but so recently there was like a video that came out regarding the Jammer Lammy, an arcade car machine that they found that was like MIA, right? And the person was like did a bunch of digging to find it and locate it, and he tracked it down and met the guy who owns it, and he interviewed him and all this stuff. And people were passing, was like, "Oh, look at some guy found the only existing Jammer Lammy arcade machine." And I opened it up. I was like, "Oh, that's my friend," because it turns out people think I'm making this up, but back in the day there was like a very small pool of like music game players on the East Coast. It was like 10 of us.
Yeah, they were all like part of like Bimani style or something, probably.
Before Bimani style,
really?
though admittedly some of those people went to make Bimani style.
Yeah.
But I was in that circle of people, and I was one of the last people brought into it.
Yeah, you and I were like, hey, I heard there's a Guitar Freaks up in Wilkes-Barre, up in the mountains.
Let's go play it.
Let's get our friend and let's just drive in the middle of nowhere before there was any GPS.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did for the day.
And it was fun. We got lost. It was fun.
Yeah, eventually found that mall and played DDR and Guitar Freaks. Ate at like some Chinese place until the mall closed and drove home.
But it's like it's a beautiful memory to have, right? Like that was back when like rhythm games were non-existent around here.
Yeah, you had and it was like word of mouth if you knew where these things were. I don't even know where you found out like who told you that was there. Like, we gotta go.
But like a bunch of like import games, like I've been listening to Pop Music 8 recently because I got nostalgic for pop and music.
Yeah,
again.
now it's just like round ones are in they're in every major city.
Yeah, or they're getting there. They're trying to become that place now because they're expanding. And now people can go and play all these Japanese cabs. But back in the day, you had to have that friend who imported a $500 pop music cabinet or not a machine, like a pop music controller.
Yeah.
And Guitar Hero controllers before Red Octane started making them.
Yeah, it was Otakon, and it must have been 20. Oh God, no, it was maybe it was 2000, maybe it was 1999, but that's when I bought a DDR pad at Otakon before I even had the game because I wanted to play this game and I couldn't get it imported anywhere, so I ended up using it just to play Busted Groove on it. But like, oh gosh, it was so hard to play these things.
Yes, because the pad would slide across the floor.
Yeah, no, part of it was like part of the appeal of it was because it was like so hard to find and so weird and different. But then it just became an obsession because that's just who we are.
Yes.
All right, so I'm turning this track down because it is really, really.
Good thing I'm drinking this coffee.
Yeah, it's kind of lulling me to sleep here. We're going to get into part of the show that we call the bonus round.
Bonus round, yeah.
Okay, the bonus round is where we play covers, remixes, and arrangements on our theme. Or sometimes we play things, I don't know, things with vocals that we wouldn't normally play. This is Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego. Now, you're following Carmen Sandiego through different, historical periods in the world. You're in ancient Egypt. You're going through ancient Greece. You're going to France and during the French Revolution. All sorts of fun stuff. But in every time that you go to, it plays classic music or classical music from that era of time.
Mm-hmm.
So not really much of a soundtrack for a video game. But there is a theme song completely different from everything else, and it's got lyrics, and it's goofy as heck. So we're going to listen to it. This is the theme song to Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego for the PC, CD, ROM, but we don't know who the composer is, but we're going to give it a listen.
The case and we're chasing her through history. Chrono skimmer, engines hot, bio-villains, evil plot. Our brave squadron leader will help us defeat her and bring back the loop to its rightful place in time. Tell me where in time is Carmen Sandiego? Stop her crime and solve this mystery. Tell me where in time is Carmen Sandiego? On the case and we're chasing her through history.
I gotta say, when that opening set of like percussion, I was like, "Whoa, man, this is gonna be huge." This music is going to be way bigger than it needs to be, and then that goofy theme song of like a cartoon theme song where it explains the whole plot of like the cartoon for you.
It actually sounds a lot like the theme song to the TV show too.
A little bit, yeah. But wait, not to the game show TV show, do you?
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, we're
about and back something blah 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 blah.
I do like it. There's like a little bit of a verse, then it goes to the chorus, and then immediately key changes the chorus, and then that's it. like we're gonna keep this as short as possible. Probably maybe because like the compression at the time for these CD-ROMs they couldn't put a whole lot of music on it. It's like, okay, it's got to be a theme song, but it's got to be short because it's gonna be full motion video, and we can't put much of that on the disc.
And I stand by the belief that the cartoon Carmen Sandiego was probably like peak like education TV show that was entertaining to watch because they integrated it into the problems they were trying to solve. Like the kids, like the detectives were like, we got to get to Carmen, but she's already ahead of us. What are we going to do? And it's like, for some reason, Carmen leaves a clue. And now they're actually talking through the problem during the show with tense music playing in the background. And she's like, I got it. She's in 1950 Quebec. And it's like, what? And they explain why they came to the conclusion and all that stuff.
I like that. Show their work. All right, your turn on, I'm going to guess, your turn. Let me think. On your turn on the bonus round is going to be a Danimal Cannon heavy metal remix of Mavis Beacon.
No.
Teach typing.
No. I did the same thing you did for the most part. So I was originally thinking to look for a bonus round track in a normal sense, but while looking for a track from one of the games I picked, I discovered that I want to say it was the ending theme was actually composed by an official artist. So I was like, you know what? That counts as bonus round. I'm locking it down because I want to play it on the show, but since it's vocals, I'd rather just save it to the back end. So this comes from the game Epistory Typing Chronicles. And the track title is called Desert Dream, composed by the Tennessee band Larkin Poe.
Storms everywhere, the wind blew sand into my hair. The smell of dangers in the air, prepare for the worst. My heart went down like an aeroplane, now stranded in a cruel terrain where the earth is dry and there is no rain at all.
Welcome back. You just listened to Desert Dream from the game Epistory Typing Chronicles, composed by Larkin Poe. And in hindsight, I'm wondering if this actually is an ending theme as opposed to just a track that plays in a desert biome.
What, based on the comments, they're saying it's the ending of the comments of the song, because it's not. This song is not in the official soundtrack. And it's probably because this is a licensed music from another band.
That makes sense.
Probably put into the end of the game. It's a beautiful song.
And the game is actually pretty cool, too. It's got a very similar vibe to something like Typing of the Dead in a sense, but the thing that makes it stand out here, I think, is the fact that lots of the time you're actually typing up the things you're engaging with. Like you might come across like lava, you have to type out like ice flow or something to like make the lava freeze up. Or when you get the skirmishes, you're hit with a bunch of words you have to type out to defeat the enemies as they're coming in closer to you.
Oh, I like that. I was expecting you to say like as you're typing, it's like telling you a story that you're typing out.
I want to say I feel like there may even have been a part where that sort of thing does happen. Like you're actually typing out a situation. And that's like the power. Basically, the idea of the game is like it's based around the power of words. So it's written into the narrative.
There's one indie game I played years ago when we lived back in the condo. It must have been like 8 or 9 years ago. I remember looking for it again and finding. Immediately forgot what it was called. Where it's a fun typing game and you're typing things out, but as you're typing, it says like you're starting. As you're typing, what you're typing is like, help me out of here. I'm trapped. Please let me out. And then like the game is like, wow, I learned how to type that all by myself. And then like, okay, go back to your room. You're like, you're in a jail cell, and they're like, and you're like there forever, and you're being tortured by typing. You know, you have to go back and you have to type, and then like you learn
speaking torture typing,
and then you learn like typing magic to like fight your oppressors. It was so over the top.
Maybe speaking magician typing.
But I remember that because the typing told the story throughout the game. As what you had to like type the words that were coming up, and that told the story. And then later in the game, it got extra hard because it was like, oh, well, I figured out a way to hack the code of the game, and so then all the typing turned into like all of the special characters. And then it was like, oh, I learned how to use special magic spells to fight the bad guys, and like it was random letters in cases across the keyboard.
What is this game called again?
Oh, I can't remember. It was short and bizarre. And
that sounds like some Doki Doki Literature Club teaches typing mess.
I had a few fizzy drinks while I was playing this game, so I was like in the mindset of like, this is amazing. Anyway, thank you for listening to the bonus round. If you want more information on these artists, please go to our website, rhythmandpixels.com. We'll have links to the artists' SoundClouds and Bandcamps. And for this group, Larkin Poe, apparently a lot of their music is it's not really available because of a computer crash or something.
I think they're still around though. I looked them up. I want to say they are still touring. Give me a second.
Maybe some rare EPs or LPs out there.
I know I got it.
But Larkin Poe, Poe, is what I found.
That's right, spooking it up. But they are still kicking.
Cool.
They are doing the dance, and they have a Blood Harmony tour.
It sounds like music we would hear at Arden at the Arden Theater. Anyway, check us out. Thank you, everybody, for listening to episode 36-6 of Mavis Beacon Teaches Podcasting. This is our... all right, we're listening right now. This is Mavis Beacon 5. This is the racing game.
There's a rate. I guess there's like you type words to power the car.
Yeah,
maybe?
Essentially, yeah, that's all it is. Or you type words to like avoid obstacles.
That sounds fun.
It's definitely this is definitely the old school. It's not animated at all. It's just it's just like images. This is like the old school. Maybe I don't think it's Apple II, but it's maybe on a Pentium.
Oh, those are the days.
Those were the days.
I actually still have my old Windows XP computer in my basement.
I believe it,
and it still works.
I finally the old computer I used for music and for the podcast originally. I finally just recycled, got rid of that.
Did it have Windows 7 on it too?
It was 7. Yeah, because my old sound card only worked with 7. It was a integrated sound card chip, and it had the outboard thing. And I had to make it work on Windows. I upgraded to Windows 10, and to make anything work with so many hacks that I had to eventually get rid of it and get this thing early on. Which had the
that tuner box.
Yeah, the Native Instruments complete box.
Yeah, because I do remember it was a lot. You had a lot less issues since you bought that.
Oh yeah, it's got everything you need. I recommend that anybody who's podcasting with another person, just get something that's got all the inputs you needed on it. It's so much easier. So much easier. You just plug everything in.
Yeah, but honestly, I am the type of person that I mean, my voice alone makes this thing just a chore to manage, I'm sure. Like, damn.
No, Chris will tell you, it's so funny. A little behind the scenes. If it's just you and me, I don't touch any settings. As we're talking, I might adjust the volume depending on like you're leaning back and I push the microphone towards you.
Get low. Get
I'm
low.
like, oh, you gotta get close to the mic. I might mess with the volume as we go, but I have everything dialed in. I don't touch a thing if it's just you and me.
But when a guest comes on, it shakes up the mix.
And then I have to go in and adjust their volume to our volume. But ours is mostly perfect. Mostly perfect. And if our listeners don't like it, you can let us know at our email address.
rhythmandpixels@hotmail.com, which thanks again for your recent email, Khalid. It was much appreciated.
Oh, Khalid's email was awesome.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was great. It's great seeing our shirt out there, too.
It's friggin' Thailand. I still can't get over that.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I know Michael Bridgewater's out there in Japan right now.
Really?
Yeah. He's visiting. I forget what towns he's visiting, but he's going to a big sumo match, and he's just visiting. He's everywhere in Japan right now.
And
it's really cool.
I think Curly Kevin had a shirt at a like a wrestling event.
Yeah, he wore the Falcom shirt at the wrestling event. So I'm thinking, so when I have a little bit of time, I'm going to revamp some of our shirts and the store, so it's a lot easier to browse for the different styles. And I'm gonna re-release some of the shirts I took down for fear of getting legal trouble. Because the Falcom shirt's popular. I mean, everyone wants a Falcom shirt.
Well, because it's Falcom.
Because it's Falcom. It's awesome. But Carlos is talking about he wants a Konami Kukahei shirt. So I'm thinking, okay, we'll do that.
It's back.
We'll bring it back, and maybe I'll make another design for that. Maybe I'll make my own design. Because I was trying to find designs for some of these old companies. Like they exist, but like it's tiny little JPEGs on a Wikipedia page that I had to like kind of vectorize myself.
So I was trying to come up with an homage logo.
Yeah, I'll make up something cool or add
or homage logo. I've heard it both ways.
You know what? When I first read the word homage, I thought it was like homage.
Homage.
If you want to check out more episodes of the show, full track listing from this show, go to the website
www.rhythmandpixels.com.
And on our site, we have links to also our 24/7 radio station playing 8-bit and 16-bit classics. And also on the page right next to it is Hammocks. KVGM, the Last Wave live station, also running actually from the PC right by Pernell's feet. That's the server right there.
Nice.
Non-stop chilled and jazzy music. So you can check that out at any time. And it looks very similar to the Rhythm and Pixel station, but it's instead it's like cool like waves and beachy scenes from other video games. And if you'd like to support the show, the best thing you can do is go to Patreon, patreon.com/rhythmandpixels. And as a member there, you get access to a monthly live stream, which I think we're going to do our next episode should be our next live stream. Now that we're going every 2 weeks, it's kind of feel like we're doing them more frequently.
It does. They come up out of nowhere. It's like, it's time again.
I don't want to miss them. So yeah. So any level there. Even at the $1 a month, you can get access to those monthly shows. But at the higher levels, you get cool stuff like there's stickers and there's mugs. I'm redoing the T-shirts. There's T-shirts available through Patreon as well at the $20 level. If at the $20 level, you can even like record or have us record your own message to play in rotation on our radio station. So if it's like you want to plug a shop that you're doing or a band that you're a part of or just say hello and something silly, we'll put you in on rotation on the radio station. I don't mind doing it. I think it'd be a lot of fun to do. We also like to thank all of our Patreon members at the highest tiers at the end of every one of our shows. We want to thank Brooke, Corey, and Khalid, the three of you first. Thank you so much.
Thanks, much appreciated.
The three of you are better than all the rest of these people.
That's not true.
Kristen.
But they are wonderful.
GameFan44. Martyrus, host of the VGM podcast. Mike Myers, Vashin8060. Super Game Station, www.supergamestation.com. Thank you, all of you. All of you are actually some of the best Patreon members ever. Much better than the following people.
They're all great people.
Antmaster, Brian Pitt, Cameron Werma, Carlos, Kung Fu Carlito, co-host of the Heroes 3 podcast.
He actually just did an episode on Project Echo, which I actually listened to in its entirety. It was good.
I'm always like, especially with some of the super nostalgic stuff that we remember. I get really interested. He's got a great show. Chris Weisner, aka Musashi219.
The wise guy.
Christopher Senstrom, host of Gameable Audio podcast. Chuck Kowalski, David Cakes, David Good, David Taylor, Enchilada Bagol, Harold Howard, Triple Jeff, Justin Schneider, host of XVGM Radio, Keith Shusterman, Michael Bridgewater, Rage Cage, host of the VG Emporium podcast, Reinhard Silkova, Romancing Sagat, Sleepy S'more, Steve Miller, Taco, and Zach Thornbach. All of you and many, many more, thank you very, very much for your continued support of our show. You're all fantastic people.
Much appreciated.
Some of you more fantastic. You're all great. Thank you so much for supporting our show. It means a lot to us. What should we do our next Patreon show? Do you have any ideas?
I feel like I had. Well, it's going to come to me shortly, I'm sure, because I had an idea not too long ago.
There was a one of them was one idea was to do a. We almost had Hammock on today's show.
Really?
Yeah. But he's gone off onto it because we've been talking about working on the radio station, and we were like, "Oh, you're free this weekend?" And he's like, "I'm going away." And I'm like, "Well, maybe next time."
Dope.
No, it was like a Rhythm and Pixels murder mystery where like one of us dies and we have to use music.
But that was the Patreon episode?
No, it just came up in the Discord and I thought it was a really clever idea.
That's a cool idea.
Great idea that I don't know if I have time to figure that one out.
It'll be fun to mess around with, but it'll be something that's not next time. That's for sure.
We definitely got to put together. And in June 25th, see us at Too Many Games at the Greater Philadelphia Expo Center, probably sometime on Saturday.
Fingers crossed.
We'll be there all day Saturday, but the show will be sometime on Saturday.
Fingers crossed for Saturday.
Fingers crossed for Saturday. Not Sunday, but it's definitely Saturday or Friday. And it's going to be the Mega Man music battle. So
Mega Man Power Hour.
I got us. I'm hoping we can, I told them we're just going to rank Mega Man music. So about that's kind of what people do on YouTube and Twitch, ranking things. So maybe that'll move us right up to a primetime spot. People come see us and they're like, wait a minute.
They're not ranking.
They're
battling to the death.
So yeah, they're gonna be. My goal is to have some visual element to the show this year because, last year they were not prepared for anything we were ready to do. I was like, I just want to plug in some music, and I had to.
Yeah, the jury, the whole box. It was you and like two tech guys there trying to work that weird box.
Yeah, because I brought all my cables, and they're like, "Well, we don't have anything." I'm like, "Great, let's cobble together everyone's like audio adapters and make it work." Anyway,
and you did it on the spot too, so that was some work.
I had to. I'm glad I was there early.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping this time we're ready to go. There's no surprises. It'll be a lot of fun. So come check us out. And then afterwards, we'll be playing rhythm games. That's what we do.
That's right.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening to the show. We'll see you next time. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I'm Pernell.
Have a great week.
And remember, this is an easy peasy one. Never stop learning, because you start learning, you go stagnant. Well, let's not talk about what happens then. It's always worth learning, and if you can learn through entertainment means, all the better, because it keeps you engaged and keeps you entertained. And quite frankly, if you're not the one that's naturally inquisitive, sometimes you might need that extra bit of fun to make the learning stick. There's no shame in it. Bust out some big brain training. It's worth it. Later.